Forget the hacks. Forget the theories. Forget the concepts. Forget well, that's what everybody else's does. Today, I'm going to just show you truth. Real mechanics, the real behind what drives visibility and how you can make it work for you. Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I'm a third-generation minister, international best-selling author of 40 books and counting. I've had the amazingly wonderful privilege over the course of the last 4 years to work with folks on their marketing. Everything from multi-billionaires to brand new startup companies, stay-at-home moms, doctors, lawyers, nurses, people who are our military veterans and have served our country. I'm always honored to get to work with them. By the way, just as a completely shameless plug for myself, I do absolutely always give veterans some kind of a discount, depending on the particular package you're on. Depends on how much of a discount I can give you, but I do absolutely appreciate you. And I want to make sure that you know and you see and you feel that, it isn't just words. We do really appreciate your service. And we want to, really have your messages shared with the world, because we really need what you've gone through to be shared with us so that we, the protected, as the phrase goes, can really understand and appreciate the sacrifices that those that give their lives even sometimes for us have gone through to allow us to be safe, to picket in the streets and complain about things and be grumpy and all those kind of things. I really do appreciate you. That was a complete left turn at Albuquerque, but I really do appreciate our veterans. Today we want to throw away theories, concepts, hacks. That's what everybody else is doing. All of those conceptual kind of things. And I want to just show you truth. I want to just look at book marketing specifically, marketing in general, but book marketing specifically. And I want to show you exactly how things are working. Okay. So in order to do that, first of all, I want to explain that when I'm talking about these very specifics, I am talking about Amazon. Okay. The reason why, I focus pretty much basically solely on Amazon is because Amazon's selling about 95% of all books worldwide that are sold. Really, basically, the short version of that is if you have a book and you want it to sell, you need Amazon to be your BFF. Now, there are other methodologies that we absolutely do employ, other places that we are going to put the books. You want your book to be everywhere. You want it to be visible and valuable wherever you are. So if you go into a bookstore, but there's a certain amount of, I'll tell you, even again, I'm going completely behind the curtains. Lisa Nichols' book, Abundance Now, it was her 7th book that came out. And I was part of the marketing team, myself and my then wife, and we worked intricately with that. And Lisa had people all over the country going into their local bookstore, Barnes & Noble, Borders, Powell's, whatever your local bookstore was, and specifically on the day that the book came out, asking, do you have this book? We even had a pre-launch, not like pre-sales, but a pre-launch campaign where we were going in to say, hey, are you going to have this book? And those kind of things. I can tell you from experience, because it literally happened to us, went into one Barnes & Noble, I think it was, don't quote me on that, one bookstore someplace in the greater Portland area, and asked if they had the book. And the lady, it wasn't sitting on the shelves. It wasn't in the hot new release section that it totally should have been. A person who's been on the Oprah show twice and was at the time Steve Harvey's mentor and blah, blah, blah. And they went into the computer and they're like, yeah, we had told them it's not on the shelves. They're like, well, let me look. And they went in the computer. They're like, looks like we've got one here in the back room. They literally had taken a book. Okay, now you have to understand, when this book launched, it ended up breaking records for HarperCollins, one of the largest publishers in the world, for going to not just a second reprint, but a third reprint faster than they had ever had a book ever do that before in the whole history of their company. Okay, so the book was selling, and they hadn't taken the time to know who that person was because they didn't know. Okay, if you know who Lisa Nichols is, you know who she is. If you don't, you're like, who are you talking about right now? Okay, like I said, was in the book and the movie The Secret, was on Oprah twice. Was Steve Harvey's was his coach when he was first starting the Steve Harvey show. All of those kind of things. Okay, but if you don't know her, you don't know her. I mean, we could talk about all kinds of names from Tony Robbins, Dean Gracioso, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. If I say Bezos, you probably know who Jeff Bezos is, but you might not. If I say Steve Jobs, most people are going to be, yeah, Steve Jobs, Apple, Some people also don't. Okay, that's all right. But when a person that has that level of notoriety is not even out on the shelf because the people don't know who she is, and it's like, I don't know. You have to have that, but you have to have the 360, the whole of it. So you want it to be in bookstores. You need it to be, because 95% of the books are going to sell off of Amazon. You need it to be on Amazon. Okay. You need to have campaigns where it's going to sell. I've got campaigns for you where we can run, rather than the ad campaigns. Sure, you could throw your money away at Google and Facebook and Amazon and buy ads, and maybe you'll get some sales, probably won't, especially if you're advertising on Amazon, because frankly, you need a certain number of reviews in order to even show up, really, even though you paid for the ad. Ultimately people are going to look at how many reviews you have. What are people saying about it? All of those kind of things. All right. Additionally to that, moving on from that, Amazon is a search engine. It's developed under the same basic strategy that is why Google was, at least, I don't know, some days I'm curious whether it still is holding its own in search engine space because of all the other things they've done. But originally it came in and changed the search engine world because it wanted to present to people relevant results to what they were searching for. Prior to that, I'll tell you the truth, everything you searched, the first 10 to 50 results were porn, because the adult media companies had the money and they could pay to be able to just blanket those things. And so relevance came in to allow us to, say, hey, if I'm searching for Yorkshire Terriers, like my little Mocha is, that I got, cute pictures of dogs and not some weird thing. All right. Glad to have you here with us, Casper's Ghost. So relevancy. And in order to do that, that means, and so the relevancy that Google brought out, that same concept, that same core kernel of coding, is what Amazon's ultimately their whole entire site is based on, because really it's a search engine of people looking to buy stuff. That's really at its core, that's what the Amazon website is. It's a search engine. It's just people looking to buy stuff rather than people looking for information. Okay. And unlike whereas Google is being replaced by multiple different AI platforms, there is still, you still need quote unquote shopping cart type of sites to go and buy stuff. And yeah, you can do a whole bunch of other e-commerce things, but ultimately Amazon is still kind of the central hub for that. I want to buy stuff. Let's go look at Amazon. Okay. It's just the way it is. So you have to have that optimized for that search engine that is Amazon. Okay, you need them to be your BFF. That's your title. Okay, there is a great title for your book, and I'm totally guilty of this because I always come up with titles that I'm in love with. And really what I should do is set aside what title I like and really look at what is going to optimize it. What is the person, because you need to break it down to an individual. What is the person searching for this book going to be using in their search words to find my book? What are the words they would use? Okay, that's the core of optimizing a website, your listings on Amazon, any of those kind of things. That's how you optimize for a search engine, is you got to know who you're talking to very specifically. So in other words, if you write something, just again using books, that is just as applicable to a 25-year-old as it is to a 45-year-old, and it wouldn't matter whether they're male or female. Okay. And there are most definitely products like that. Okay. There's a lot of products like that. Okay. But when you go to your marketing, you have to be more specific. Take, for example, a gallon of milk. Okay. Now you could buy milk. You can buy it in pints. You can buy it in quarts. You can buy half gallons. Those are all available because if you're, like, for example, selling milk to an 87-year-old mother who's the only one here in the house that pretty much is drinking milk anymore these days, she's going to go through about a quart every 10 days. Okay. So she's not going to buy a gallon. So having a great price and a special deal on gallons of milk does her no good because half of it would just go bad. Ever decreasing chances of the world governed by AI being a sci-fi impossibility. Opinion on the current state of covert subversions, I don't really know, but that's not what we're really talking about today. So you've got to be specific. So if you're talking to that lady, be like, hey, this quart of milk is a special price, say 99 cents, because you want to get them, okay, back. And, you want them to walk past, the snacks that the person like that walk past. For the mother who's a 25-year-old and has two small children that are both drinking milk out of their bottles, maybe even, or, at the dinner table, whatever, that's a totally different ad campaign. You have to know who you're talking to. Doesn't mean that you don't sell milk to both groups. It means that you run specific ads for the specific person. Okay. And so again, with your book, you could, and really honestly, if you have two different people that you're selling a product to, in this case, a book, you really should write two different books. One should be geared at the 25-year-old. One should be geared at the 45-year-old. Putting it all into one thing is one of the big mistakes we make when we optimize. And there are so many ghostwriters out there, so many book writing gurus that are helping people write 350-page books. You probably don't know it, but the 350-page book is something that the publishing industry created. People never demanded it. The publishing industry discovered that if a book was 100 pages versus being 300 plus pages, they could charge 4 to 5 times more for a 300-page book because it appeared to the consumer as being of more value. And so instead of selling a book for $10, they can now sell the book for $35, which is about what a hardcover book is selling for these days. And that's all of those kind of things. That's where they come from. Is not because, everybody Now, I love reading, and I absolutely do want a nice, big, thick book if I'm going to sit down and read, for fun. I mean, the sheer gross rate of the amount of reading I do in any given week, I don't do a lot of reading for fun anymore. But back when I was taking my kids to the library, when they were all still living at home, they're all grown now, I needed a big, thick book. I needed a book that was big enough that it wasn't going to already be finished by the time the kids were done picking out their books and we were ready to leave the library. That is about knowing your audience. Okay. And so, if you're writing something to that kind of audience, you want the bigger book, but for most people, you want the smaller one. You want a title that is appealing to what they're searching for. You want a description, not something that's in elegant prose that really deeply appeals to it. You actually need that first 40 to 60 characters of the description to straight up say exactly what the person was exactly searching for. It needs those exact words in those first 40 to 60 characters in order to validate, okay, the title says it's about this, the description says it's about that, and then there's keywords. Keywords, again, keywords more than anything are based off of the category that that book's going to be in. Amazon is continually expanding the number of book categories they've got. Why? Because that's a popularly searched phrase. And they say, okay, well, we need something that's on teen self-reliance, which is a category by self-esteem and self-reliance is actually that category in teen and young adult books. So they make that category. And I can bet you at some point it's going to actually, break out into being self-esteem and self-reliance as being two separate, because that's a pretty popular category in children's and teen books these days. It's just that kind of thing. You got to understand how to optimize it. Okay. And then you have to understand that after your book comes out and it has the right SEO, bestseller is a day one launch strategy. Amazon gives you, and yeah, you have to be part of KDP Select for it, but there's a good reason to be in that. Amazon's going to give you up to 5 free days that you can give your ebook for free to people. And though it may seem counterintuitive, when a person gets your ebook for free, they're more likely to buy the print book than when they don't. It's just the way, again, just the way it works. But when a person gets your ebook for free, it massively jukes the algorithm too, because Amazon doesn't care whether you paid $0 or $1 million for the book. They want to show you these are the books people are actually acquiring. Okay. But once you get that acquisition started, you got to keep it going. Number one, you have to keep it going with reviews, genuine, verified purchaser reviews. Anybody can go and buy the book, get the book from their grandma, whatever, at Amazon and write a review. Some of them will get listed, some of them won't. But Amazon gives greater weight to a book that is purchased off of Amazon. In other words, Amazon made some money off of it. And then the person read the book, which is obvious by what they write in the review, and came back on their account and listed it. See, it's understanding how that works, and that's going to affect your algorithm. That's going to affect your ranking. And you've got to keep this going ongoingly. You can have the greatest book in the world, and if you don't do anything with it, if you don't continue to advertise, to market, to get reviews, to do those things with it, it's going to wane in the algorithm. But if you continue to promote it, it's going to continue to move. See, it isn't about doing giant, massive things. Sure, you can go for the 10,000-ish print book sales that you need to do in order to qualify for New York Times. And if you happen to, be a featured guest on a major network television show, and you can say, hey, go to XYZ and get my book, and millions of people are watching it, yeah, you can probably sell 10,000 books in a week, out of millions. It's a pretty low percentage, actually, really. And then, yeah, you will probably make it onto, you'll be eligible to make it onto the New York Times bestseller list. Keep in mind, that's an editorial list. So they can put anything they want to. They're a privately owned company, and they can list anything they want to. But that's what they base it off of. You can do that. But again, even if you do 10,000 sales in a week, if you don't do anything after that, sure, you can put on your cover of your book that, and you can use in your credentials, you're a New York Times bestselling author. But if you don't tell anybody, if you graduated from medical school and you don't use or you have any other type of PhD, doctorate of any other kind of level, and you don't tell people you have a doctorate, people aren't going to, knock on your door and go, hey, did you happen to get a doctorate? We got to use it. Marketing is about that. Now, honestly, before I conclude here, I want to give you an honest timeline, because there's a lot of promises of the moon and the 11 stars and just, massive amounts of things. The truth of the matter is bestseller is a day one launch strategy, which actually is more like day 2 or day 3. But in the first 2-3 days, we can get your book on the bestseller list. I've done it 5,000 times, have 100% success getting your book on the bestseller list. It just absolutely can be. And many times it'll even actually rank in another country as well and be an international bestseller. Okay, that's initial. You got to follow that up. Okay, the next thing you got to follow that up with is reviews. You need a minimum of 10 reviews for Amazon to really even see your book as being for real. I'm just telling you how the algorithm works. There is a magical kind of thing that happens at 10 that moves your book from unknown to known in Amazon's algorithm. None of us know why. We just have seen it happen enough times. Same thing happens at 100. It's like all of a sudden you go from unreal to totally legit when you break that 100 mark. And then, 1,000 and 10,000. Reviews, absolutely key. And then you also need other advertising, marketing things. Marketing, okay? I'm not talking about ways for you to make massive amounts of money off of your book, because your book is your visibility. Your book is your lost leader, cheap milk at the back of the store to make people walk past the cookies and decide that they want to have cookies to go with the milk. Or to go in the store, and the one that's a really huge moneymaker is the soda fountain machine up by the front of the store. That's why it's up by the front. It's because either when you first walk in, you grab a fountain drink, or as you're walking out, you grab a fountain drink. And they charge you $1 or $1.50 for it, and it costs them about a dime. Huge, huge moneymakers. And sometimes it costs them less than that, because a lot of people will massively fill up the whole entire cup with ice, and then, just very little soda in there, really. It's just how it works. And they want you to come in and get the cheap milk and walk past the cookies, the soda, the things at the deli, all of those kind of things. That's how marketing works. And we want to do the same thing with your book. We want you to be visible all over the place. Bookstores, libraries, children's centers. We just had one of our authors' books was just in at a children's hospital. So cool. It's just so amazing to get to see it. I love seeing those kind of things. But it's going to you need a minimum of 90 days just to begin to build traction. 6 months to even really create real momentum. And really, if you're serious about your book as a marketing tool to be your real landing page, to be your authority, to have you be seen places, and have that consistently be at the place where you don't have to spend money on marketing anymore, because the book is so well known that it's being suggested. And you as an author have so big of a following that when you then bring out your next book, more people are going to buy that next book just because they're hoping and ready and waiting for it. You need to spend a minimum of a year, and probably really more like 18 months to 2 years, really, really focused on marketing of it to get you to that place. Not saying that then when you bring out the next book, you can't do any marketing with it. You got to legitimize that next book. But it gets easier when you put in the time. Now, here's the cool part about that. The best time to start is always yesterday. But the nice part about it is if you decided you wanted to start, I want to get visible and valuable. I really want to market who I am. I want the exposure of me. And I know that my book that I already have is the way to go. If you really want that, we can get you started. And this absolutely is a great week to do that. People are spending money. They're looking for absolutely the solution that you have. And in order to do that, what I want you to do is just DM or comment the word Amplify Review. Okay? Put it in the DM, put it in a comment, and let's get you seen. We can do it right now. Now it's a great time to do it. Still get you visibility, get you a little bit of a ranking bump, all kinds of those kind of things that we can do for you right now, even still before Christmas. And maybe on Christmas Day, you can be one of the books people are scrolling through. And if you're interested, also drop a DM, comment, whatever, Amplify review. If you want to talk about how you can participate in our Christmas week, meaning Christmas Day through New Year's Day, promotion for your book as well. We'd love to see you have it. We want to see you succeed. See, here's the thing. And I know I went a little long, and I apologize for being so wordy today. I wanted to make sure that you really understand the system, because I know that when you understand the system, then you can win. And I'm here to help you win. I hope you're happy, safe, warm, and loved. And then until we're together again next time, where we're going to talk about why people don't buy the real trust gap that nobody talks about. That we're going to talk about trust gaps tomorrow. And until we're together again then, I hope you have a great week.